Well, good morning. Today is day 39, and it's called Balancing Your Life. And one of the questions I think is important for us at this point is to kind of ask yourself, if you've been following along for all 39 days or a bunch of the days, a question we need to ask is anything happening? Are there any changes? Is there confirmation that you're on the right track spiritually? Balancing your life. And by this, it includes the spiritual aspect of your life and what it means to be a Christian and the kind of balance that we're talking about here. In athletics, there is a Olympic event called the pentathlon, and it's a combination of unusual skill sets a combining of some skill sets in an unusual way. It involves shooting with a pistol, it involves fencing, and then horseback riding and running and swimming. So you can imagine that training for a pentathlon would be quite vigorous and varied. And then to do well, you have to do well in all five. If you don't do one of them, then you're bound to not be very successful in a pentathlon. In the Christian life, we have these five purposes. This whole book is built upon the discipline of worship and fellowship and discipleship and ministry and evangelism. And if you neglect one of those, it can really throw out of balance your entire Christian life. So there's 4 habits that I want to talk about this morning that you should develop in your life. You should practice these 4 habits if you want to have a balanced Christian life and if you want to be successful in growing and serving God as a Christian. And the first one is personal accountability. We talk about this a lot. That's going to come by way of a special friendship, fellowship that you're in, small group, life group, but you have to be intentional in holding one another accountable. In Proverbs 27:17, it says, iron sharpens iron and one man sharpens another. So do you have a relationship right now where someone holds you accountable and you hold them accountable and say, hey, how are you doing? Or can I tell you about some struggles I'm having? A second habit you need to have is get in the habit of giving yourself a spiritual checkup, whether it be weekly, maybe Sundays after church. You take a little time on Sundays to kind of evaluate how you're doing this past week with those 5 spiritual disciplines. Maybe you do it once a month. Maybe when the church observes the Lord's Supper, that was a good reminder to have a spiritual checkup. Maybe even an annual retreat or quarterly, some way to keep asking yourself, how am I doing with my spiritual life? Lamentations 3:40 says, let us test and examine our ways and return to the Lord. Galatians 6:4, let each one test his own work. 1 Corinthians 11:28, let a person examine himself, and that was right before coming to the Lord's Supper. 2 Corinthians 13:5, examine yourselves, to test yourselves, to make sure that you're in the faith, walking with God, and living according to your testimony as a Christian. A third habit you can form is to journal. And journal is just another way to write down some of the things that you're learning. This particular type of journaling just means that you are writing down maybe where you're finding success or struggles. It's not really your Bible study notes at this point. It's not a diary of events, but just a way to communicate some of the things that are going on with you spiritually. And when you look back over time and you read some of your journal entries, you're going to see some areas of struggle and growth, and it'll be very helpful in that way. And the last thing to do is to share some of your journey along with others. Proverbs 11:25, whoever brings blessing will be blessed, and one who waters will himself be watered. And so you can expect that as you share your Christian life with other people and you share the things that you're learning, then God is going to bless you. You'll receive the joy and blessing of being used of God. So I want to finish up today's lesson with these couple of thoughts. Will you make progress as a result of this purpose-driven life challenge? So we've been at this 39 days. Have any of you made some changes? Have any of you been renewed and recommitted in some of these areas? You probably know now that being a Christian, you're going to hear many of the same things over and over and over again, and that's because we need repetition in staying close to fundamental things. And what action steps have you made? What have you done? Maybe you've made some real steps and you're really listening and paying attention, and maybe some of you've strayed in some of your habits, and some other habits have creeped in, and maybe this series is kind of summoning and calling you back to bringing some discipline into your life so that you can live a life full of purpose for the glory of God. May the Lord bless your day. God bless you.